Hi, this is Glenn Phillips with today's assessment tip. Some of you may have heard me speak at conferences or cocktail parties or street corners in large cities screaming into the darkness that I don't love the term best practices. The reason I don't love the term best practices is because it assumes that all institutions are equally resourced to do the same task, and additionally, that all institutions share a similar mission or goal. I find that institutions are incredibly diverse and incredibly different in what they're aspiring to do. In addition, they often are highly different when it comes to resources. There are some very large institutions that have very small IE programs. There are some very small institutions that have quite a few people that wear different assessment hats at the campus. There are some folks that have assessment professionals on staff, some that just have assessment adjacent professionals on staff or faculty who wear multiple hats. So to say that there is one best practice that everyone should be doing, I think is a little myopic at best and a little inequitable at worst. So what I prefer is the term good practice. I think that good practice is an inclusive term that can identify that there are things that people do that are good ideas and that can widely be shared or adapted at different campuses if those campuses have the resources to do such things. I'll use the example of technology. Technology is a good practice, but if you don't have the resources for technology or your process is not complicated enough to necessitate technology, then it might not be necessary. So I don't want institutions thinking that they're not doing what's best simply because it's not necessary for them or because they don't have the resources to do so. I dug in a little bit to the beginnings of the term best practices, and I ran across a great short little article by Gretchen Rumer Voskel. It's called Best Practice, Past, Present, and Personal. It's from 2010 Language Arts Journal of Michigan, and we'll put that citation in the comments at the bottom. I like that she goes back and looks at 1990 when a lot of the best practice language in education started, but also goes back to the turn of the century when best practices was really being used to understand technology and industry. And I think it can also be dangerous when we think of assessment as an efficient process. I think that assessment can be a very messy process because it can be a very personal process. And so when we use the term best practices, I also think that it mechanizes or automates the idea of assessment that actually takes the people doing assessment out of assessment, the thought work of assessment. And there are certainly ways to make it easier or faster or cleaner. But I think that best practices implies more of a mechanized approach to assessment, where I find that assessment is really more of a personal adventure. So I hope that you've enjoyed this short little clip and think again next time you hear the word best practice or the next time you use the term best practice. I'm looking forward to seeing you again in future videos. Bye-bye.